AMD had plenty to show off at CES this year, but why is it I feel like I'm left wanting more? Hey, what's cracking everybody? Welcome back to Computer Games Hardware. Today on the channel, we are talking about everything AMD from CES. With the show all wrapped up, AMD had plenty to show off, but it's what they didn't say that actually had everyone talking. So today, we are going to be looking at RDNA 4 and the X3D chips that have come out. So let's get straight into it. This is probably going to be another long one. There is plenty to talk about with AMD and CES, so grab a cup of coffee, strap in, and please feel free to use the timestamps below. I put them in all my videos. Hey, just want to jump in here and say, if you're enjoying any of the content on Computer Games Hardware, please check us a like, share, and subscribe. And watching the videos has really helped me out. So thank you very much to everyone who's been engaging in the channel, all our new subscribers and the OGs. I really appreciate you all. And big thank you to the community for contributing, commenting, and I love hearing what you guys have to say and all that stuff. So drop us a line. You can find us all on our social media in the description below. We also have some affiliate links, so if you want to support the channel, check those out. We've been working to do some more stuff with that, so I really appreciate you guys all. Thanks for watching. Alright, so finally AMD announced the 9950 X3D and the 9900 X3D chips that we've all been hotly anticipating. Let's break them down. So the AMD Ryzen 9950 X3D has 16 cores, 32 threads. It boosts up to 5.7 gigahertz and it's got a base frequency of 4.3 gigahertz. This thing has a massive total cache of 144 megabytes running on PCIe Gen 5, and it has a TDP of 170 watts, much like its non-X3D counterpart. We also have the 9900 X3D. So this thing has 12 cores and 24 threads. It can boost up to 5.5 gigahertz and it has a base frequency of 4.4 gigahertz. This thing has a total cache of 140 megabytes, also running on PCIe Gen 5, but most notably it has a much lower TDP at 120 watts. So pretty impressive that they've been able to keep the TDPs within the range of the non-X3D parts. So let's talk about some of the key differences with the X3D models. So some of the key differences with the new generation of 3D V cache, including with the 9800 X3D that was released in November, is that they've moved the 3D V cache to below the CCD, the core complex die. That means that the cores are actually above them and they're closer to whatever cooling solution you're using. So that means that lower temperatures and higher clock frequencies are able to be achieved. So that's where a lot of the decrease in temperature and increase in performance has come from. The next most significant difference between the X3D models is the cache size has increased dramatically. So let's take the 9900 X3D for example, because that's the one I was most interested in. That thing is running on 140 megabytes of total cache, and its non-X3D counterpart has 76 megabytes of total cache. So you can see there's a pretty significant jump in the cache size. So that will improve performance in cache heavy applications such as gaming and things like that. There are a couple of drawbacks with the X3D counterparts, namely the max boost clock. That comes in at 5.5 for the 9800 X3D, and for its non-X3D counterpart, the 9900X, I believe it's 5.6. So there is a slight trade-off there. Alright, so let's talk about the availability and the price. So AMD announced that it's set to be available in Q1 2025. So potentially we're looking at the end of March, as we do with all those things. And AMD didn't actually announce a price at CES, and we'll talk about the announcements and lack thereof a little bit later in RDNA 4. So keep that in mind for a second. But I think these are going to be just a little bit more expensive than people are anticipating. My guesstimate is the 9950 X3D is going to be around the $600 US mark, and that translates to around 975 bucks Australian. So pretty expensive in my neck of the woods. And similarly with the 9900 X3D, I reckon that's going to come in around 550 US, and that roughly translates to 895 bucks Australian. So again, pretty pricey in my neck of the woods, but also I am anticipating a little bit of a price drop for the non-X3D counterparts, the 9950 and the 9900X. However, those things are currently pretty cheap, so particularly the 9900X, so I wouldn't be surprised if they don't do that, but it's probably just worth holding off just in case. But those chips, in my opinion, are currently pretty good value, so it's still worth keeping an eye on them in my view. So if you saw any of our other Zen 5 coverage, you'll know that I've been hanging out for these announcements since November last year, and I had my money on AMD putting 3D V-Cache on both CCDs. That hasn't come to pass this time around, and I think for my money I might be going with the non-X3D variants. AMD have had issues since the introduction of the 3D V-Cache models with like Windows scheduling, the 3D V-Cache and the non-3D V-Cache CCDs not working in the right applications and things like that, and that really puts me off buying such an expensive Halo product if it's not going to work as expected and you have to muck around with it. To be clear, I don't mind doing that, particularly if you're buying a budget product. Think about the Intel B580 or something like that. I'm willing to put a little bit of effort into it if it means it's a good value product. But these things are Halo products, so that's kind of puts me off purchasing them without knowing if there's going to be complicated issues relating to how the CCD work in gaming performance, productivity performance, and with Windows scheduling and all those sorts of things. It is said that AMD have fixed a lot of those issues, but I'm not so confident that they have. They always seem to come up with some issues. Like everything, we've been seeing that a lot with all the new technology, with the AI boom. There's been a lot of teething problems that have come out with that, and it was expected that AMD would fix that issue by just putting 3D V-Cache on both CCDs and making these things a big leap in gaming and productivity performance. Let me know what you guys think. Should I wait for the benchmarks and see how this thing plays out? Let me know in the comments down below. Alright guys, let's move on to RDNA 4. Alright guys, let's get stuck into RDNA 4 and the weird way this was announced. So as you know, AMD introduced its new RDNA 4 architecture and the introduction of the RX 9070 series of GPUs. So this includes the RX 9070 XT and the RX 9070. So if you're a little bit confused by that, it's because AMD have changed the name from the traditional naming scheme that we knew, i.e. the 7800 XTX and things like that, and they've simplified it to the 9070 series to match NVIDIA's series of GPUs, which is running on the 50 GPUs. I'm just going to tell you straight up, I hate this, guys, and it seems like the only reason that they've done this is because the 9070 is higher than the 50 series, so it seems like it's better because it's higher numbers. That's the only reason I think that they would stand out from them, but that was true for the old naming scheme anyway. I don't know why they've done this. It's just brought them a lot of negative press. I'm not going to spend too much more time on it than that, just to say that, look, we'll eventually get used to it, but keep in mind, we're going into UDNA after RDNA 4, so it's likely that the naming scheme is going to change again, so I don't know why they've done this. I hate it. Anyway, RDNA 4 is built on a 4 nanometer process, and it has some significant improvements over the 7000 series. Namely, it's got its second generation AI accelerators, its third generation RT cores, and it also has a new enhanced display engine that is going to support better video encoding and stuff like that. So as you could imagine, there's going to be better performance in AI acceleration, and ray tracing is also going to be better video encoding performance. But AMD also talked about there being a better memory management system that can support better ray tracing and AI acceleration with lower latency. So that is good news as well. And it seems like they're not just making that up. There have been some videos and things around where they've put FSR3 up against FSR4, and you can even see a significant notable improvement with the AI upscaling and things like that, even with like YouTube compression just on video and stuff like that. So it seems like they have put a lot of work into the improvements to FSR4. I should also mention a lot of the CES coverage has FSR4 not just being spoken about as the upscaling. They're talking about frame generation and things like that. So if that's confusing, I think that FSR4 is trying to encapsulate all of that. Don't quote me on it, I'm not too sure, but that's the impression that I get at the moment. Remembering that famously that Fidelity FX Super Resolution didn't used to rely on AI acceleration or RT cores to be able to implement its upscaling or frame generation. So that's the big difference between FSR3 and FSR4 at the moment. So that also comes with a little bit of a word of warning to older generation GPU owners that, you know, FSR4 is going to need AI acceleration to work. So it probably means that, you know, if you want the latest and greatest, you are going to have to upgrade. And I think AMD are banking on that being the draw to upgrade to these new 9070 series. Frank Azor did mention in an interview that the AMD will be reviewing how they implement FSR4 in older generations, but for my mind, that's him saying that eventually we'll be bullied into putting FSR4 on the 7000 series, because remember, the 7000 series is the one with the first generation AI cores and the second generation RT cores. So that's where it's gonna work the best. I think the rest of us are unfortunately being left in the dust a little bit. So just be mindful of that. That's probably one of the reasons that AMD are hoping that we upgrade to the latest and greatest RDNA 4. Now, take this with a grain of salt, but some leaked benchmarks suggest that the 9070 series will be comparable in performance to the 4080, maybe even the 4080 Super. However, it's worth mentioning that Frank Azor also refuted those claims, saying that the benchmarks that we've seen before CES are inaccurate and performance might be better. And to be honest, he would say that. I'm not exactly sure why AMD would want people comparing their latest and greatest RDNA 4 architecture to the 4080 models and things like that, the old generation of NVIDIA GPUs. So, you know, he's going to say that the performance is going to be better. I don't know why they would want that. They've changed the naming scheme specifically to be able to compare to the 50 series. So hopefully they've put their money where their mouth is, because if we're comparing things to the 40 series, AMD have failed, particularly with that naming scheme. He also spoke about the price, saying that these things are not going to be the $1,000 cards of previous generations. And I tell you what, they bloody better not be, because with NVIDIA's official pricing, AMD won't want these things to be over $500. NVIDIA have come out and tried to be really competitive, and I think that's part of the reason why AMD's plans and announcements didn't exactly go to plan at CES 2025. So for my money, if AMD had any sense, these would be cards that are coming in under $500 US. I think Nvidia have really pinned them in a tough spot this time. As you guys might know, AMD did this weird thing where they didn't really announce RDNA 4 the way everyone expected them to, mainly probably because of Nvidia's announcement, but they claimed that they didn't get enough time to announce everything and that RDNA 4 deserved its own announcement, but they also hit the floor running and were banging on about RDNA 4 to what it seems like select media and tech tubers and things like that. So they had plenty to say with about RDNA 4, but it felt really weird this time. Usually what they do is they have an announcement. They don't announce everything. For example, the prices of the X3D chips, they didn't announce that either. But usually what they have for us is an announcement date for the event that they will do those announcements. So they didn't do that this time. It's not out of the ordinary, but I expect that they were really thrown off guard by the news of Nvidia's announcement and they had to backtrack. Usually it's more well-rounded and better presented than it is this year. So while, you know, I wasn't shocked that they didn't give us prices or anything like that, it really did feel like they were playing second fiddle to Nvidia here. They often do this. This is not something that's out of the blue, but the RDNA 2 and the RDNA 3 launches were very similar. As I said, in previous years and previous announcements, they've been a bit more confident and said, yeah, you know, we will be having our event, and that is announced at CES or shortly after. Look, Lisa Su is probably out there right now filming their big RDNA 4 architecture announcement, talking about all these cards and things like that. So I'm expecting that to come pretty soon, but they're going to want to be pretty quick. They're announcing those things this quarter. They're set to be released this quarter. So they've only got till March. So people are going to want to know what's up pretty soon. So I am hanging out to hear that announcement. The other little caveat I'll make is that AMD can only talk to the reference cards in this situation. So they're going to want to make their reference cards cheap, but that doesn't mean the 9070 series is going to be cheap. AIBs need to make their money back and all those sort of things. So, you know, while they showed all those cards in their slides and things like that, let's be honest, they're only talking about two cards, the 9070 XT and the 9070. So keep that in mind. They showed all those cards, but they're not going to be the competitive cards. AIBs are going to have some cost overheads on top of those reference cards. So just keep that in mind, that, you know, real world prices will be a lot different to, you know, what we're being presented at currently. And while we don't know much, there's plenty of speculation out there in the tech sphere, so there's a lot to consume. I hope I've been able to contribute a little bit of insight on what I thought about it, but let me know what you guys think. Are you excited about the X3D products? What about RDNA 4? Do you think it's lived up to the expectations? Are you expecting to be blown away by Lisa Su's presentation and AMD's presentations when they do officially announce these things and the pricing? Anyway, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I've had a really good time making this one. This is always a great time in the you know, when new announcements and things are coming on, so there's probably a lot going on. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I really appreciate you. I'll keep making these if you keep watching them, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. See you next time.